Hello, Dijon here. In the comics portion of episode 138 of the Mustardcast, we go over what books you've been reading lately and review Aquaman Andromeda. Please enjoy. Yeah, moving on to comics. What books have you been reading lately?
So, I started my reread of House of Leaves, like I said I was going to, and that's been really, really good. Reading it again with a fresh set of eyes and knowing how it ends has like fundamentally changed the reading and experience in a way that like I cannot begin to explain. That's like House of Leaves is one of those books where it's like you just have to experience it for yourself. You can listen to video essays and people talk about it all day long, but the only proper way to experience that book is to read it yourself. And I won't lie, it is very hefty, but
What's
it's
House
worth
of
it.
Leaves?
House of Leaves is a metafiction novel done by Mark, and I'm going to butcher his last name so bad, Daniel Lusky, I think it is, in which it's a some guy finds or some guy like loots the place of his friend's dead landlord, and finds like a manuscript he had written before he died about a movie. It was a like an analysis book about a movie, but the thing is the movie does not exist and never has, and the guy that wrote it is blind and had been blind for decades while he was writing it, so there was no way he could have seen this movie to begin with. And so like it's gradually like unraveling that narrative like of this impossible movie. So it's like a story within a story. So it's like we're learning the story of this movie that does not exist, of the author or like the dead landlord's thoughts on it, and then also the story of the guy that found the manuscript through like footnotes and appendixes and like crazy text formatting. It's a really neat book.
It sounds cool.
It is very cool. The narrative is very compelling. There's a Doom mod based on it, actually. Hmm.
That's random.
But very random, but it's well made. It's called myhouse.wad. Check it out. It's pretty good. The author put a lot of work into it. But other than House of Leaves, reading Witch Hat Atelier still, I'm caught up completely now, and that's been great. Shadow's House has started to update again, so I'm reading that. What else? What else? There was one other thing I was thinking about. One of those ads on Instagram where it's like the manga with a really divisive plot point, and it's like, oh, my sister's husband hates me, but actually loves me in secret, and like the weird ads. This particular one was about a like a wife who gets rated on a point scale by her husband, but she never scores above like 40 points because he hates her and he sucks, and he like tells her explicitly like you have to become a 100-point woman for me, and then she finds out he's cheating, and so the rest of the manga is her gathering evidence to expose his infidelity. And usually these mangas don't really like interest me, but this one, it got me. It's called 60 points is enough for a wife, I think, something along those lines. And that's it for me.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
It is.
But yeah, for me, I read Radiant Black number 36, slowly catching up on that. I'm fully caught up on Grimm now with issue number 22. I read the latest issues of Ultimate Black Panther and Ultimate X-Men, and I caught up on Daredevil. And I'm excited for early next year. Daredevil is going to be being written by Stephanie Phillips, who's
Ooh.
the writer of Grimm.
Ooh.
And yeah, I'm really excited for that because Grimm's really good. I love Daredevil,
Mm.
and it's gonna be exciting. I'm probably gonna get that physically. Um,
Ooh.
I went to go pick up my comics on Wednesday, and I decided to get Batman. Added it to my pull list. Got issues 3 and 4. 4 is the latest one, so I read 4. I'll probably go back and read 3 as well, and 1 and 2 whenever I get it. They didn't have 1 and 2 at the moment, but once they're back in stock, I'm gonna get 1 and 2, and it's on my pull list now.
Mm.
So I'm getting the current Batman by Matt Fraction, drawn by George Jimenez, and that comic's real good
Ooh.
so far. That's why I started collecting. I was like, I gotta get this physically while it's still early
Fire.
in the run, rather than waiting until it's like way late.
Mm.
I finally caught up on Nightwing. I read the 2025 annual and issues 28 through 31, and in the latest arc, they've reintroduced the original Nightwing, in a very interesting
Oh.
way. So Nightwing was a Batman-style vigilante on Superman's home planet of Krypton, um, who even had his own Robin named Flamebird. And after Superman told Dick Grayson the story of Nightwing, that's when he dropped the Robin persona and took up the mantle of Nightwing. And they're bringing back that
Oh.
original Nightwing, Nightwing Prime, in this story in a very fun way that I'm really enjoying.
That is really
Yeah,
fun. I'll have to check this comic out. Sounds interesting.
yeah, the current run's really fun, but they didn't like start from number one, so it starts at number 100 and something. um,
Fascinating.
I'm reading, still reading Supergirl at number 6. I read Green Arrow number 29, the New Gods number 11, which is written by the same person that writes another book we're going to talk about later. Um, and it's a book you really like, New Gods. Green Lantern Dark
Mm.
number 7, Justice League Unlimited number 12, DCKO tie-in, Justice League Red number 3, the final issue of Batman and Robin Year 1 number 12, which was really good, and I would suggest anybody who wants to learn more about Robin, especially Dick Grayson Robin, read this. This is the perfect like starting point if you want to get into specifically Batman and Robin. Um,
Ooh, noted, noted,
yeah,
noted.
it's Batman and Robin Year 1, first year of them working together as teams. It's real good. Uh, read Batman, oh excuse me, Absolute Batman, 2025 annual, and it was just Batman beating up neo Nazis. A good time.
Mm-hmm.
Read Superman number 31, DCKO tie-in, The Flash number 36, DCKO tie-in, Immortal Batman number 3, and it's finally starting to get good. The first two issues I wasn't feeling. This is Kyle Higgins, same writer as Radiant Black. Radiant Black heavily inspired by Power Rangers, and so is Immortal Legend Batman. And
Mm-hmm.
first two issues just weren't hitting, but the third issue, they finally got me. And I was okay.
That's a
It's getting
relief.
good. It's getting good. Read DCKO number 2, um, and Absolute Wonder Woman number 1 and 2, but unfortunately, we aren't talking about that one this episode. That was meant to be our next review, but Bree was sick for a bit, so we'll be talking about that next episode. Now that Bree has recovered.
Yippee.
But before we get to the comic we will be reviewing for this episode, I did want to mention that DC Comics now has an IG titled DC Comics. The other one I think is just called DC Official. They have a page called DC Comics that is specifically for comic book related news. Um, they're even posting about the comics that are releasing every week in their stories. So on Wednesdays,
Ooh.
they're posting like all the comics that come out on Wednesday, and I'm so happy. This means something to me, man. This
Right.
they're putting in an effort to like tell people about these books, and that's good. And I think this is a major step for advertising for the comic books specifically. And I hope that this brings in so many new fans.
I hope so too. Because it makes them a lot more accessible.
Yeah. Next, well, next we just have the book club. Getting into
Yes.
Aquaman Andromeda, written by Ram V, who is currently writing the incredible New Gods run right now. Um, Pencils, inks, colors, and cover by Christian Ward. Letters by Adita Bidikar, and edited by Chris Conroy. Quick
Mm.
synopsis. Deep in the Pacific Ocean sits Point Nemo, the spaceship graveyard. But it's not only ships that sit at these dark depths. There's a structure never made by human hands. And that structure seems to be waking up. The crew of the experimental submarine Andromeda have been chosen to investigate this mystery. But they aren't the only excuse me. But they aren't the only ones pursuing it. The master pirate Black Manta is on the hunt, and everything that attracts Black Manta attracts Arthur Curry, his lifelong foe, the Aquaman. But haven't helped them but haven't helped them all when the door of the mystery at Point Nemo swings open to admit them.
Mm.
So yeah, this is a book that we've both read before.
Hmm.
Um,
One of my first comics, actually.
yeah, and yeah, this was a few years ago at this point. I feel like time flies. Like sometimes, like I've recently was
Sure.
reminded that Alan Wake 2 came out in 2023, and I'm like, what are you talking about? That game came out last
What?
year. Yeah,
Right.
no, that game came out 2023, which is insane.
That's insane.
Uh, but yeah, we read this a few years ago, and it was awesome. And I forgot how good it was. As I'm rereading now, I was like, hold on, this book hits. I don't think I fully appreciated this book the first time I read it. Um, Christian Ward's watercolor art style, um, which is very appropriate for this book, is amazing. And it's just really good. I've read some reviews where some people kind of feel like sometimes it just gets too abstract, or like they feel like it's like too sketchy, and I'm like, nah, I like it. I like it.
Yeah, it adds to it. It's like this book, like the entirety of it, makes it feel like somehow the art, the colors, the even the lettering like comes together and makes it feel like a fever dream. It's like it feels like the whole time I was reading it now with like this new lens of appreciation for comics, it felt like I was slipping in and out of a fever dream, and or not a fever dream, consciousness, in and out of consciousness, and I really really like that. It's like hazy but not like murky. It's fun.
Yeah, get into some further synopsis of the individual issues, which there's three this time, but they were three long ass issues, like Wonder Woman Historia. They were each like 50 pages or
50
something like that.
pages, yeah.
And this time I read it in the full volume form.
Mm.
So in issue number 1, we start with the internal monologue of our main protagonist, Yvette, as she recounts how obsessed with the ocean her father was, and how proud he would be to know that she's a marine biologist. She's currently on an experimental submarine called the Andromeda in Point Nemo, on a mission to research a spacecraft that landed in the ocean. But before we learn that, we get a glimpse at the life of Arthur Curry, aka Aquaman, as he comes to the surface in eastern Russia to live as a man and get away from kingly duties, and just be a human rather than Atlantean for a while. And he enters a philosophical convo about his two halves with an old Russian woman who tells him that he can't escape the other side of himself. It's after this that we learn about the mission aboard the Andromeda. Then we go to to the Easter Islands, where we find Black Manta accepting a job to intercept any data and materials the Andromeda team finds. Then we're back on the ship, where Yvette is finding it hard to sleep, so she explores the submarine and finds herself in the engine room, where she discovers that the engine is a prototype quantum gravity drive. That's when a shockwave hits the sub, and their comms guy, says that the UFO scanned them and now knows the shape of their submarine. Meanwhile, the ship that brought them to Point Nemo, the Esperanza, is being attacked by a kraken when Aquaman saves the crew. And during all of this, we discover that the Andromeda mission is a secret op uh, that nobody knows about, so they're not supposed to be there. So yeah, what are your initial thoughts on issue number 1? Or I guess just your thoughts
um
overall, because this is the first time reading it.
yeah, I guess in this reread, I do like that they kind of set it up. Also, I'm getting a little ahead of myself actually. The narration style reminded me a lot of not Wonder Woman Historia. Which one was that? Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, where it's like the story's told through a very specific character's eyes and their narration. Like Yvette's style of narration and like the way she talks about the things that like happen in this reminds me so much of Ruthie. And I really, really like that because it makes this seem more like a myth than it is something that actually like happened in air quotes. And I really think that lends to like the eldritch horror angle they're trying to go for. And so like seeing that set up in these early pages where it's like, yes, it's about the Andromeda and this thing they found in the ocean, but it's also kind of like a not an origin story necessarily for Aquaman, but like like I guess you could call it like cultural context. And I really like that.
Yeah, it definitely sets up the main plight of Aquaman's character very concisely in like 2 pages. And Ram V is just a great writer, and this reads almost like a novel. Um,
Oh, for
and even
sure.
without Christian Ward's beautiful art, you'd still get the full picture just from the way Ram V writes it. And
Hmm.
you also get a understanding of Black Manta's character, and also just a couple of pages. Like this comic does a great job of just excuse me, introducing you to Wonder Woman. Why can't I speak? This comic does a good job of introducing you to Aquaman and his world in a very short period of time. This
For
is, I
sure.
think, the perfect introductory Aquaman comic.
And then it also does that thing where it's like it tells you a lot, but it doesn't tell you too much. So it's like in reading this comic, it made me want to learn more about Aquaman rather than being like, oh, okay, I got all my context here from Andromeda, so I don't need any more. Like, I want to see other people's takes on the character. I want to see what like the proper backstory for him is, in air quotes. Like, I want to learn more about Black Manta and why he's a hater. You know, like.
One of the biggest comic book haters of all time. It's crazy how much he hates Aquaman. Um, but yeah, Aquaman's design in this is also really cool and much more like a sea creature where he has like super pale skin and his eyes are black, and then his costume is like made out of like corals and it's different colors. It like has some purple in it as well instead of just the orange and green, and it's a very fun design. Very
Very much so.
yeah, very much
It
like
makes it
a
a treat to read.
yeah an ocean creature.
Mm.
But yeah, moving on to issue number 2. It starts with the crew of the Andromeda suiting up to dive into the ocean and enter the UFO. And their dive suits are sick as hell. They have gills built into like the rib part of the suit that extracts oxygen from water for them to breathe and turns the oxygen into, or excuse me, turns the hydrogen into power. This is the kind of cool tech you can only get in an Aquaman comic. These suits are really cool.
They
Um,
are, and I'm honestly really, really glad that they explain the technology behind it. Usually, in like comics and movies and stuff and games, it's like the technology exists, but there's no reasoning for it. And like, I'm one of those people that like gets curious about stuff that like, doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But it's like when I see tech like this in comics or in movies, I'm like, I want to know about that. Tell me tell me about it. And I like that they like really broke it down in the like, in the scientific language they would use to talk about it in like a briefing or something like that. Because yes, I had to Google some words, but I enjoyed that process.
yeah, very fun explanation.
Hmm.
When we return to the present, or wait, I'm skipping lines. But yeah, next we see how the captain of the crew felt ended up on this mission, and we learn that he's a recovering alcoholic. Uh, a surprise tool that we'll use later. Um, when we return to the present, the team enters the ship, um, and it's a very alien construction, and I mean that literally. It reminds me of the Alien movies, and as a result, it reminds me of Metroid, since I'm currently playing Metroid Prime 4, and those games are
Mm.
heavily influenced by the Alien franchise. The ocean very much mimics outer space in its vastness and emptiness, and that makes sci-fi work really well within it in the same way it does
Hmm. Like
space.
Selma.
Mm. As the crew explores the ship, floor collapses under them, and Yvette gets separated from the others alongside Ivanov, um, where they're saved by Aquaman, who tells them to leave. Meanwhile, Black Manta is waiting for the crew to find something valuable so that he can kill them and rob them. And while he waits, he decides to board their submarine, the Andromeda. Yvette and Ivanov go back to the sub, which allows Manta to sneak in using the cloaking ability a suit has, which is suit in this. His suit's also really cool. And the designs of both Aquaman and Black Manta feel like they're heavily inspired by the first Aquaman movie by James Wan from like what was that 2018?
I think so,
Especially
yeah.
Black Manta suit and Aquaman's suit doesn't look like his suit in that movie. The suit in the movie is very very comic accurate, very good costume. But this he has a tattoo in his arm that is very much just a tattoo that Jason Momoa has, which isn't a thing that Aquaman usually has. Um,
Mm,
which I think that's very interesting how they took a visual inspiration from that movie, which it is a
for
really
sure.
good looking movie from a visual standpoint. I like the first one, the second one not so much. First one's a good movie. Okay, yeah. Black Manta sneaks in behind them while the rest of the crew that Yvette and Ivanov left behind continue to explore the ship. And they reach the core of the alien craft. And once they're there, they begin to be mind controlled and relive their worst nightmares while simultaneously bringing them to life. According to Aquaman, that's what created the Kraken that attacked the Esperanza. One member of the crew, Murphy, is killed while Captain Felt and one other member escape. Back on the ship, Manta corners the comms officer Anders and threatens him to give him access to the ship. Soon after, Felt returns, and after having his fears and insecurities stoked by whatever he made contact with on the ship, he attacks two people and is killed by Ivanov. The cosmic horror is dialed up a lot this chapter, especially with a great like unknown creature driving people who see it insane. What did you think of issue number two?
I thought issue number two was really good. And like the fact that it plays on that like cosmic horror that we cannot comprehend kind of thing, but does it in a way where it's like we are the ones causing, I guess we being the collective we of humanity are the ones causing the horror in this situation is fascinating. It's a fascinating concept. And I love like just everything that I can't remember the name of the thing. It's like the Everdark, something like that.
The Dark World.
The the Dark World. Yeah. I love everything that it stands for because it's like it the fact that it pulls from like fears like thoughts but mostly like fears I think is really really fascinating because it's like there's nothing scarier in my mind like no eldritch creature can be scarier than your own thoughts and your own anxieties and your own fears made manifest. And
Yeah,
it's like I thought about all the things that I worry about in a day to day and how like that would work with it, and that's terrifying to think about. So they nailed the horror aspect
yeah.
of it,
Rather
I
than it
think.
being like Cthulhu, if you look at him, you die because you don't understand it. It's like instead your brain rationalizes it as something that you do understand and that you do fear.
Right.
Yeah, and in issue number three, the final issue, we get a glimpse into Arthur's past with his father attending their lighthouse. And we learn how Atlantis fell to the ocean depths from a story from Arthur's father. Magic in Atlantis was performed by pulling power from a place called the Dark World. And it was described as reaching in with ambition and the Dark World reaching back and making it manifest. But soon the Dark World started listening to the minds of Atlanteans, and not just the wizards and witches, and made their greatest fear manifest, which was Atlantis sinking, because this was before Atlantis sunk and it was above the ocean. Um, in fear of this power, the Atlantean wizards cast the Dark World into the stars. The wizards used the last of their power to save Atlantis and teach their people to live under the sea, and eventually magic disappeared. But one day, the leader of the wizards dreamt of the Dark World returning and awoke, hoping that the Dark World did not hear his request. But it did. Um, Back in the present, the Esperanza was discovered, and now ships of war are on the water above the Andromeda and have discovered them and starts firing missiles. When Aquaman comes in and blocks them, but is knocked out in the process. During all of that, Anders, the man that was threatened by Black Manta, attempts to resurface, but some of the other crew members try to stop him, and one of them is shot by Anders in the ensuing struggle. Ivanov subdues Anders when the pilot of the Andromeda, who was injured during the explosion of the UFO, awakens and calms everyone down before coming up with a plan of escape. The plan he comes up with is to use the Andromeda's experimental engine to blow up the UFO alongside the dead bodies of their comrades to cover everything up. Before all of this, though, Yvette brings an unconscious Aquaman aboard the ship, and as she waits for him to wake up, she reveals to Ivanov what memory the Dark World is resurfacing for her, which is the memory of her father falling off of his boat into the ocean, her trying to save him, but his body never being found. In return, Ivanov reveals what memory has been haunting him, and he tells her that in the mid 90s, he ferried refugees from war torn countries for a price. And one night, they were at risk of getting caught, so his superior forced him to cut the rope that was tugging the refugees' raft, leaving them to die stranded in the middle of the ocean. It's here that we see a panel of an eyeball that's half submerged in water that looks like a black hole that is really cool. I was like, that's some good art right there. Some good
It
symbolism.
was. It was. This whole chapter was just like really bleak though. It made me
Yeah.
so sad.
Once Aquaman awakes, the plan commences, and Yvette and Ivanov take the bomb to the ship. Meanwhile, Black Manta's men infiltrate the Andromeda and kill the remaining crew while Manta enters the ship ahead of Aquaman, uh, with a hit of Aquaman, Yvette, and Ivanov. Once inside, Aquaman is struck by the Dark World's power, but instead pulls on the memory of living with his father at the lighthouse to kind of offset the negative emotions. As he enters the chamber where the Dark World is imprisoned, he finds Black Manta fighting a monstrous version of himself and steps in to fight it, to distract the Dark World while Yvette and Ivanov place the bomb. Ivanov tries to contact the remaining crew and tell them that the bomb is set, but he realizes they're dead once he gets no answer. He then decides to stay behind and detonate the bomb, now that it can't be done remotely. And Yvette argues against it, but then he reveals that he didn't just cut the rope of the refugees' raft, but shot holes into it, guaranteeing their deaths. And after hearing that, Yvette agrees to escape alone. Meanwhile, Black Manta awakens after being knocked unconscious by the Dark World, and exclaims that he refuses to let the Dark World steal his kill and saves Aquaman before Ivanov sets off the bomb.
And that's
Yvette,
how you that's the mark of a true hater.
for sure,
Okay.
100%. Yeah, Yvette struggles to escape the ensuing black hole, but then Aquaman saves her and Black Manta. And the book ends with Yvette waking up on the same East Russian shore Aquaman visited in issue number 1. So yeah, that little symbolism, the black hole in the eye, came back with, Ivanov creating the black hole when he blew up the bomb. Also,
I do love that it mm-hmm.
Black Manta had a lightsaber randomly, which was random as hell, but I was like, I mess with it.
Very random, but it looked so good, so I couldn't even be mad at it. And I really love how it all came full circle in the end. I think that's a really, really fun thing to do, especially with like a cosmic horror where it's like you see the symbol and it's repeated over and over and over again, but it only gains realization at the end of the horror. And I think that really like cements in the like, wow, I see why you kept showing me these arcane
Yeah.
visions.
A quote that I love from issue number 3 came from Aquaman, where he says, "Is this how I go? A boy trapped under the weight of being a king?" And it's another one of the things that is just a simple but brief explanation of just everything that makes up who he is. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's real good. And like you said, Black Manta refusing to let the Dark World steal his kill and save Aquaman, big hater energy. Um,
We'd love to see it.
but yeah, also the existentialism of the Dark World, and it,
Mm-hmm.
pulling from people's desires, both good and bad, is just a really fun concept. Um,
I love when they do like that thing of like the whatever the like evil power is in air quotes has no morality. It's about the morality
yeah,
of the person that uses it. I love that. It's one of my favorite tropes.
yeah, for sure. This is why I think in live action, the next Aquaman needs to be another person of color. Jason Momoa is a mixed guy of Pacific Islander and white, and we specifically need somebody with that exact same um, like racial makeup again, because I think they should like pull a Black Panther, Wakanda Forever with a Namor, who came first, by the way. Namor was before Aquaman by like like a decade at least.
Oh wow.
And they made him a like native Mexican, and leaned into that culture, the Aztec culture and all that, and that was really cool. And I think you could do something similar with Aquaman and make him a Pacific Islander. And you don't even necessarily need to have. I don't think you don't need to make Atlantis specifically lean into that culture the way they did with Tolo Khan, in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Instead, you could just have his like culture on Earth, like his like the human side of his family, be Pacific Islanders. Um, like in the movies, what's his name? I forget his name, but the guy who plays Boba Fett in Star Wars movies, he not Boba Fett. Well, he does play Boba Fett eventually, but he's not the original Boba Fett. He plays Aquaman's father. He's Pacific Islander. He's New Zealander, and his mother is a white woman, and she's an Atlantean. And you could do that same thing. And I think him being biracial is important because Aquaman very much is like his story is an allegory for being biracial, where he's trying to figure out like he's never Atlantean enough for the Atlanteans and he's never human enough for the humans. And I feel like that allegory works better if he's a person of color who's mixed,
Right.
with a fictional part fish part white person race, rather than just being a regular white man who's part fish. It works better if he's also a mixed person of color. Um,
Right.
and I think that's a very important part of his character that work that
Me
they could really
too.
mess around with and have fun with
For sure.
next time he shows up
There's so
in
much
live action.
potential.
Yeah, love this comic. This comic's great. I definitely it definitely
Mhm.
makes me want to read some more Aquaman because I haven't read a lot of Aquaman.